decide who you want to be in this next chapter and commit to it, and like look at it from like every ounce of sensory that you have. So like, what are you going to smell like? What are you going to dress like? What are you going to feel like? How are you going to wear your hair? How are you going to express yourself? Who are you going to be when you show up in different roles and communities that you are a part of? So like, when you show up to work, when you show up in your relationships, who are you socially, digitally? Who are you? Really get clear on that image, on, you know, on who you are in this era, right? Because going back to like Beyonce or Ariana Grande, there's such distinctions from who they were in every like album era. And so it's important to get clear on like, well, who am I in this era and what choices align with committing to that version of me. Oh shit. What? Why is it that blurry? Am I in focus? Not the one day I look good, I'm not in focus. Hello guys, what is up? Welcome to my channel if you're new here. If you're coming back, then you're probably shocked because you're like, not Jasmine's hair being combed and eyeliner on her. Yes, I'm coming on the internet looking like a woman, and I'm proud of that. It just so happens that a day where I actually look presentable is a day where I have enough ideas and energy to actually share something on the internet. So I'm just as jazzed as you are. My Leo moon is living. But otherwise, I hope that you are well, or as well as you possibly can be. My name is Jasmine Kylene. I'm a spiritual counselor, I'm a journalist, I'm a girl doing her best with what she's got, and I like to talk about things, and sometimes people stick around for it. So upon sort of surveying the energy of some like clients and friends and kind of like everyone that I experience life with, I've realized that a lot of us are in this weird sort of like stagnant, awkward, transitional period in our lives where we're sort of having to figure out what's next, who am I in this next chapter, and is my nipple out? Oh my god. Oh, you can't see it, thank god. Yes, this weird transitional period where you're sort of seeing that there's another chapter you're walking into, but you're not exactly sure what that next chapter is. Which, mind you, if you're watching this around the time that I upload it, then maybe you're feeling that collectively. But if you're called to watch this at any point and you're experiencing a feeling of knowing change is coming and wanting to flow with the unknown of it, but also induce some of it, then that's what I'm going to talk about today. When you're in a period where life seems to be a little bit malleable and you want to flow with it, but you also want to do your part in sort of creating what it is that you want to live in and experience, then I have a method that I do, and I'm currently doing because I'm in that same sort of space where I sort of take on this leadership role of inducing the change that I want to see in my life on some like main character energy type shit. And the reason why I think this is really effective, or at least effective in my experience, I think it's A, because I have a Leo moon, and B, when you see yourself and you treat yourself as a main character, life will sort of fit its way to act accordingly. So if you choose actively to see things happening for you and you take those steps into creating what it is that you want to happen for you, life will definitely tailor to that intention. And I started thinking about it like this when, funny enough, when Tyler, the Creator, dropped his new album, and I was listening to it, and it was so obvious that he was in such a different space than he was in Flower Boy and in Cherry Bomb and in Igor and Wolf. And it's interesting to see how artists can be, they can sort of mark the journey that they've been on and the versions of themselves that they've been along the way with sort of like these albums, right? And it comes with like an entire, like an era, it comes with a color scheme, it comes with looks, it comes with a feeling. And so it's interesting to see how artists can sort of like look back at like the different chapters that they've experienced in accordance with their albums. And I like to think of any of you who don't create bodies of work like that, that this is a way that you can also do that. If we choose to look at our life through its different chapters and eras, and if we're intentional about marking those eras to be distinct from the ones before them or the ones after them, then there's something really invigorating and main character-y about knowing that you're in a marked period of time that can also help you, I think, feel more in control. I think the weird part about a transition like this is that there's while part of you is surrendering to the flow of it and how things will organically unfold, which is kind of what co-creating with the universe looks like, there also is this sense of like I feel like I'm in this gray area, I feel like I'm in limbo, I feel like I'm here and also there. And so when you sort of mark and induce change and say, okay, I'm stepping into a new chapter of self, and you have things and ideas and intentions that mark that transition, there's a sense of clarity that comes within your mind, and it allows you to manifest a bit easier because you are in a more, you're more in a controlled state when you can actually see the distinction between like, oh, this is where I was and like this is where I'm going or where I am right now. The first thing I would say if you are stepping into this new era is to like choose a title of this new, you know, chapter of life that you're embarking on. Like, what does this chapter of life, if you could summarize it into a title, what would it be? I've asked this to like a lot of clients or just even on Instagram, and people have given me like the most like hilarious but also very, very intentional titles. I think I'm coming up with mine right now. I think it's, well, I think in order to sort of come up with your title, you really have to look at what's your objective of life right now. And right now, my objective is that I want to live as full capacity as I possibly can. I've been experiencing a lot of loss recently, a lot of fear recently, and just sort of being met with like how fragile life is. And so the nectar that I've taken from those situations is knowing that if life is so precious and valuable, are you going to do everything that you can to make sure you are in your fullest potential, that you're living at your fullest potential, and that you're not settling for what is safe or what will just, I don't know, what feels okay instead of what feels amazing. So right now, I would probably title what I'm stepping into as like Operation Full Potential, right? Or like Max Capacity Jasmine or something like that, which that needs work, and I'm gonna work on it, but like something along those lines, right? So when you're picking a chapter title for this era that you're stepping into, really be intentional with like, what is your objective right now? What is it that you're choosing to feel? I had one that was like Operation Ascension, right? So like if you're in a space where you're really developing your spiritual ability, or you're stepping out into like social scenes again, or you're in a relationship and you're really like figuring out who am I as a partner, you know, whatever it is, just title it in accordance. The second thing I would say is to sort of choose a color scheme, right? And obviously I work with colors, I work with color healing. I have a color healing line of t-shirts, promo. So like I'm really intentional when it comes to working alongside color, and I think that especially when you see these like albums that artists put out, you see that there's intention when it comes to like what color schemes are they using, what fonts are they using. So figure out like, you know, how do I want to define this new chapter in like 5 different colors, and make sure that those colors are incorporated in what you wear and how you show up and how you're experiencing this. Because one of the sort of like tips, one of the steps when it comes to doing something like this is getting rid of everything that doesn't resonate with who you're evolving into, right? And that comes alongside clothes. So clearing out your closet and getting rid of the things that don't actually, I think, serve or fit into your evolution, you can replace that space with things that actually fit into your evolution. And if you have a color scheme to kind of guide you, like, you know what? This era that I'm stepping into, it feels very orange, it feels very red, it feels like I'm very much in my, you know, sacral and root chakras. Or if you're stepping into an era where inner child healing is at the forefront, then maybe you want to use more pinks or more blues, you know, whatever resonates and vibes and jives with like where you're at emotionally, choose that color and make sure that it's showing up in your wardrobe, in your experience, in your environment. And like I alluded to literally 30 seconds ago, get rid of what does not. And outside of getting rid of what you're just attached to that has outgrown you or you have outgrown, it's also tying up any loose ends it also means tying up any loose ends or ridding yourself of any relationships or people or things that are stuck and stagnant from the era you're stepping out of. So if you know, this chapter of my life, this relationship was really at the forefront, or this job was really at the forefront, or, you know, whatever role I was playing, if I was a student, if I was a friend, if I was a girlfriend, and I'm no longer those things, or I've evolved into a different level of those things, making sure that those loose ends are tied up so that you're not dragging any baggage from who you were or who you're evolving out of into this next era of life, right? So like if an artist was putting out a new album, there is no reason why they would have like an older song on there, or why they would, you know, feature someone on the album that they no longer get along with, or they no longer have any sort of like working or social relationship with. So it's the same thing in life, right? If there are people, things, conversations that need to be had or rid, making sure that that is taken care of before stepping into, because sometimes when you feel that sense of stagnancy, we feel like I'm still in this limbo, this gray area, sometimes that's because we're anchored in things that haven't been taken care of yet in order for us to evolve. And that's sort of like, it just feels like quicksand and you don't even realize why. And it's because we're holding on to or attaching ourselves to like narratives that no longer work or fit and where we're going to evolve into. And the thing is, when it comes to timelines, when it comes to evolution, when it comes to change, everything is vibrational. And so when you're holding on to dead weight, your vibration is going to be impacted by that. So recognizing what that dead weight is and handling it however it makes sense to handle it for you, whether that's, ending relationships, having conversations, or being brave enough to say the thing, making sure that you're intentional about that, because that's going to affect where you're at vibrationally and how you can sort of raise yourself to this timeline where you are experiencing you and where things have sort of like the fluidity to move into your life. And alongside that, when it comes to your physical space, change things up, declutter, redecorate, get new sheets, get new things to like make your space yours, figure out what needs to go, what needs to be reworked, and just making sure that there's enough space to either replace it, or if you want to move into like a more minimalist era of your life, just getting rid of things. Anytime anyone is experiencing any sort of like stuck energy in their life, I'm always like, what does your room look like? What does your home look like? Are you making sure that what does not belong there is cleared out? Because that's gonna move energy, it's gonna move space, it's gonna move anything that's stuck and stagnant, and it's gonna clear up vacancy for whatever you want to replace that with, whatever you want to bring in that actually resonates with this new chapter and this new version of you. And I think what's probably the most important about something like this is deciding who do you want to be in this next era. So continuing to talk about myself, I've been embarking on a lot of shadow work, a lot of shadow healing. That's why a couple of videos ago I was like, hi guys, I am literally dying, but it's all part of the process, honey. But it takes a really honest conversation with yourself to figure out what is it that you are not bringing into this next chapter when it comes to how you act, how you react, your habits, your patterns. Outside of like external relationships, I think we can blame a lot of our experience on like things outside of us, but when it comes to us and the ways that we're playing into our own stagnancy, the ways that we're playing into our maybe lack of growth, recognizing what that is, where it comes from, forgiving yourself and integrating it, and making sure that you are clear on what the active choice of evolution is for you. So for instance, I've recognized that I'm more selfish than I'm comfortable with being. I think that I'm selfish in the good ways. I like to, make sure that I'm taken care of, and I like to take care of myself. But I think, oh my God, it's such a pretty sky outside. Even though I show up for community within my work, I think sometimes my mind will think about myself first and foremost, and I want to make sure that that isn't impeding on like the kind of person that I am. So when I step into this next new era, I want to make sure that I'm being as like intentionally selfless as I can during the times when I need it, as long as it's not forfeiting my power. And I also recognize that like on the flip side of that, I've been forfeiting my energy a lot to spaces that are draining me. And so I say all that to say that stepping into this next era for myself, stepping into Operation Fullest Potential, that I'm being more considerate of others' like feelings and where they're at with their healing journey, and not, sort of projecting where I'm at and expecting everyone to be there. As well as like humbling myself, showing up in the spaces that I know I need to show up a bit more, and also holding down the boundaries that I know I need to hold down when it comes to like the people that I hold and how little they may be holding me. That was very vague, but I say all that to say that really be clear on like what is it that I do not want to bring into this era when it comes to like my attributes, and who do I want to be. Decide who you want to be in this next chapter and commit to it, and like look at it from like every ounce of sensory that you have. So like, what are you gonna smell like? What are you gonna dress like? What are you gonna feel like? How are you gonna wear your hair? How are you going to express yourself? Who are you going to be when you show up in different roles and communities that you are a part of? So like when you show up to work, when you show up in your relationships, who are you socially, digitally? Who are you? Really get clear on that image, on who you are in this era, right? Because going back to like Beyonce or Ariana Grande. There's such distinctions from who they were in every like album era. And so it's important to get clear on like, well, who am I in this era and what choices align with committing to that version of me. And visualize it, right? Really, really see it for yourself. See yourself living in that truth, living in that vessel, living in that body. And a beautiful way to really manifest that is to make out like a day-to-day schedule of like, who am I when I'm living within this next era for myself? So like, I've already made a day-to-day schedule, and I'm like, in this next era of self, I'm definitely going to be, you know, at 7 o'clock, I'm done working and I'm gonna walk to the beach every single day because I want this version of me that I'm stepping into, that I'm evolving into, to be more, or rather to go back to being really intimate with nature. I think I lost that in the past couple of months. I've gone to the beach maybe like once every 2 weeks, and I used to go literally every single day. So I think recommitting to nature is something that I want to put into my schedule so that I know that this is a part of the life I'm stepping into. And so yeah, I would suggest the same for you. You know, map out a day-to-day. Like, what does it look like when I'm really living within this next era of self? And you know, commit to it. You can even make a vision board. Like, you can make a Pinterest board if you're more into the digital. I have like my physical vision board here, but I also have a Pinterest board that I update an overwhelming amount of constantly. And so really see like, what is the color scheme? What is the vibe? Who am I? So what I would suggest doing is going on Pinterest and titling it whatever you are titling this next chapter of self, and then filling it up with images and feedback that really represents the vibe, the energy, the experiences, the places that you want to go, the things that you want to wear, the things that you're calling in. If you want a new job in this next era, if you want a new relationship in this next era, what does it look like? What does it feel like? Really having it reflected back at you and like consuming that as often as possible. So like every morning or every night, just going on your Pinterest board and looking at it and being like, yes, this is what I'm stepping into. This is what I'm experiencing. This is what I'm in. And I think our manifestations happen the most viscerally when we're having fun. So above all else, if this isn't fun, you're doing it wrong, and stop. Making sure that like you're having fun thinking about the colors that you want to incorporate, the title of this, you know, what's the mood, what's the vibe, who am I not letting in, who am I inviting in, what am I inviting in. Really be sure to have as much fun as possible when it comes to mapping out this, and know that with that intention, that is already enough of a mindset shift to really, really step into it physically and bring it into your reality, right? So just calling it in, seeing it for what it is. You know, the universe is, I always look at it as like the cosmic waiter that's like at the table ready to take your order, and you're like, just bring me whatever. And you're like, and the universe is like, honey, we like specificity here, we like clarity. So if you have clarity on what it is that you're calling in and who you want to be and how you want to experience this life, like say it, pronounce it, enunciate it, honey. Get really, really like sharp with it, and make sure that you're having fun along the way. And I promise you, the era will unfold right before your eyes. And that's all about what it takes to be a co-creator alongside the universe. To know that co-creation means not worrying about the how, but rather like the what and the why. You know, coming back to your why always. Why is it that I want to experience this feeling? Why do I feel deserving of it? You know, why do I no longer want to play into these outdated themes? Or why do I no longer want this person or this thing to come into this next era? Really coming back to like, what is my solid why when it comes to like the life that I'm choosing to live, and focusing on that. What does it look like? Why do I want it? Okay, cool. The how and everything else will be taken care of. Just make sure that you have clarity on what it is. And yeah, that's basically it. This is just, I think, a beautiful way on some main character shit to forcefully evolve your life. So I hope that this served you. Please let me know. Send me your Pinterest boards if you make them. And otherwise, yeah, I'm sending you all my love. Feel free to subscribe or follow me on Instagram at JasmineKylene if you feel called to. There's a beautiful sunset that I'm gonna go look at because that is what this new era Jasmine does. She does not miss the sunset, okay? So I'm gonna go do that. But I love you guys, and I hope you have an amazing journey. Okay, bye!